Oh. Welcome everybody to Mind Over Matter live stream event. This is a men's mental health event, which is here to help other people kind of manage and kind of thrive during this isolation. We want to welcome both men and women because regardless if we are focusing on men's mental health, this will be something that will please everybody. And I'm sure by the end of this, you'll be feeling a little bit more empowered and just a little bit more educated as to how you can manage your mental health during these times and way, 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 way beyond. So I would like to firstly say my name is Craig, also known as Mr. Positive. I like to believe I'm a cheesy motivator with big dreams and a passion for helping people find their peace and maintain it. You're here with Mind Over Matter, and I'm so honored to collaborate with Mind Over Matter, whose main priority is on people's mental health. They are literally a creative hub to improve your mental health. So welcome, and I hope that everybody that's here enjoys everything that's to come. So firstly, I would like to actually invite and welcome two of our great guests. Very honored to be with them as well and have a conversation with them. The first one is Matt Lipsey, who is actually the director, a film director actually. Thank you, Matt Lipsey. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, Craig?
I'm very well, thank you. Do you want to give yourself a quick introduction as to who you are actually?
Well, I'd actually classify myself as a TV director more than a film director. I have directed a film, so I guess you could call me a film director as well, but mainly television and predominantly comedy. That's where I found myself. Wasn't a game plan. I didn't set out to do that particularly, but it's the path that I seem to have gone down. And I guess if I'm in a conversation with somebody who says, tell me something that I might have seen, then the go-to would be Little Britain. That's the one that kind of everyone's heard of.
Yes.
It usually kind of puts me on the map, if you like. So, but beyond that, just all kinds of different comedy shows and several drama shows as well. But yeah, mostly television.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, honestly. And yes, a lot of us have seen Little Britain, but I'm sure a lot of your other productions have been just as amazing as well. So I'm really honored and thank you for being here. Let us also introduce our second guest, which is Rick Long. And he is, again, another man with massive achievements. Rick Long, welcome.
Hi, Craig. Many thanks. Hi, Matt. Good evening to you all.
Hey, Rick.
How are you doing, Rick?
We'll get together and have this event coming off. My name's Rick Long. I live in South Lincolnshire. I'm 58 years old. Up until 2008, I used to work and did work for 27 years as an operating department practitioner at Peterborough Hospital in anaesthetics. And when the unfortunate accident happened in 2008, September in Germany, which left me disabled, once I was able and well enough, I looked into what else I can do. So I decided to become a personal trainer. And with the personal trainer side of it, I've done a course called Instructability, which enables me to do one-to-one training with not just able-bodied people, but disabled people. So I do have some disabled clients that I train one-to-one, and I do 4 classes a week. 2 of those classes are with disabled people for anything from 8 to 10 to 12 people, and then at any one time. I absolutely love it. So, you know, I've always been into trying to help people. Working in anaesthetics in the hospital, I was helping people there, and what I'm doing now, I'm helping people again, but you know, on a different level and a different kind of work. But I absolutely love it. I never get up in the morning and think, oh no, I'm going there again. You know, I look forward to it, so it's great.
Oh, that is a really great story, and it's so glad that I'm glad to hear that you've been so adaptable with everything that's gone on for you, and you've soon been able to achieve quite a lot. So I'm really honored to kind of welcome both of you, both Matt and Rick, and thank you for joining us in this conversation. I would like to firstly ask where you guys from, but also where are the audience from? Who are the people that are tuning in? What location are you in? I'm personally from East London. Matt and Rick.
I'm in Twickenham. So southwest.
Sorry, Matt. I'm from South Lincolnshire. I originate from Nottingham area originally, but South Lincolnshire, about 15 miles northeast of Peterborough. So I live in a little village called Baston, which is in between Bourne and Market Deeping. So it's a nice, quiet little village. Lovely people, really good.
So we got quite a bit of a distance and a bit of a variation from busy London all the way to Lincolnshire. So it's really, really glad to hear that we have so few people. And we also have Rainey, which is from Peterborough, Cambridge. Welcome, Cambridgeshire, sorry. Welcome, and thank you for joining us as well. I really hope that you take something away from this. So firstly, I wanted to start with one question, very simple question, one that a lot of people usually overlook is, how are you guys really doing? How are you guys really doing? Matt, you could probably start.
Well, I'm doing very well. I think obviously the question is slightly loaded in the particular context we find ourselves, and I'm sure you're actually alluding to that, because right now there's a lot of people who have an awful lot to cope with. I mean, in a sense, globally, we're all coping with a very similar thing, but the way that that's affecting people is going to be massively different across the board. So I can personally say that I'm in a pretty good place, and that's for a number of reasons. But physically, I'm surrounded by my family. I've got my wife and kids with me. I'm in a house that's got a small garden, so I've got garden space. And I'm finding myself coming from working very, very hard in the television industry to having a lot of time off. And it's time that I've talked about for a long time that I've wanted. So there is a strange way in which there's real positives to come out of this for me. But make no mistake, I'm fully aware that there are people out there who are really suffering, and my heart goes out to them in a big way. It just allows me to really count my blessings in a big way.
I'm really glad to hear that. And yes, that is very true. There are a range of people who are either thriving through this, or actually a few people who are not doing too well at this time. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Aaron from South London, Rhiannon Williams from Ipswich, Suffolk, Heidi from Hunstanton, Norfolk. And yeah, a big shout out to everybody. So thank you so much for everybody that's joining. Thank you, Matt. And yeah, I can resonate that with a house and food and a few people to check on us, we can still keep going. But for those who are struggling, I hope that you can find a little bit of peace with what's going on, either through just being alive, being healthy if you are, and being able to cope anyway. And Rick, how are you doing?
I'm coping really well. As always, there's always people that are a lot worse off than oneself. My wife's working from home, so she's set up the spare bedroom as an office. I'm furloughed, so I'm 80% of my wages. I'm finding time to, think about work, writing some PTs down, different classes. We're fortunate enough to have a big garden, so I've got my own gym set up in the garden in the shed, but I've got some stuff outside like tractor tires, battle ropes, stuff like that. So, I can carry on my own training and, keep my own focus together. But, yeah, I can't decide a lot of the time, if I feel chilled, bored, and alongside those two things, worried. So, but it's a worrying time for everybody. It really is. Everybody's got their own reasons to be worried, whether you're self-employed, all these fantastic people, on the front line. And, look at, as he is now, Colonel Tom, he's 100 years old, and look how well he's done. What an inspiration he is, isn't he?
Yeah, no, I fully agree that there are really some really strong people out there that are doing a lot of great work, because a lot of us actually have just asked to stay indoors. I guess, yeah, some of us don't have work, which is really unfortunate, but there are actually people that are working. And then you have to wonder, well, would you want to be on the front line, or would you want to be maybe just at home? So it's like pick your battles, and it really goes out to everybody who are really doing a lot of work and putting their health in at risk to help people out and to support people as well, and that's the main thing. And I think this has actually given us a lot of time as you
working in theatres, operating theatres. So obviously I know a lot of people that are on the front line, so I can I know how they're feeling, or have a good idea how they're feeling with what they're doing, and sincerely, my thoughts go to them. They're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, no, guaranteed. This is a time that these people are really recognized for what they do, and they do it every day. Actually, it's not just now. There's been times when hospitals are very overwhelmed with certain things that are almost impossible to manage, but they still do it. So yeah, it's a very key time for us to kind of recognize that, and also recognize the people that we're surrounded by as well. Now that we get to be home, we get to spend a bit more time with our family. We get to pick up the phone and call somebody we haven't talked to in a very long time, just to see how they're doing. So it's a reflective time for all of us. And how is everybody else doing as well? How everyone that's joined us, how is everyone coping with things? How do you feel about things? And we'll get back to you during the chat. So the next question actually for both of you is, how is it that you keep yourself going? I'll kind of kick off as well, because I've actually quite a few of the questions, but for me, how I kept myself going, yes, I'll wake up and sometimes I'm just thinking, I can't believe we're still here and we're still locked down, and when is it gonna end so we can get back to our lives? But actually, at the same time, I try to collect myself and collect my thoughts, and I think, you know what, I'm alive, I have food, I'm able to pay for my place. And I have a lot of people watching out for me. If they're video calling me, messaging me, and that keeps me going. It just allows me to not feel like I just have to be slumped and just wait for everything to go back to normal. But it allows me to think, oh, you know what, things are not so bad. So while I'm in a bright state, what could I do with my time? What was the book that I never read? What is the person I haven't called in a long time? What is the course I never did? Or you know what is a TV show that I didn't catch up on in time? And can I just relax and take my time doing it as well? And I live alone, so it's a little bit odd, a little bit different actually. But it gives me a bit of a time to reflect, which I find is really important. Rick, actually, how have you been able to keep yourself going? I know that you may have a routine, especially as a PT, and what you do. How have you been able to keep going with everything?
I try to plan what I'm going to do the next day. So like this evening, or even this afternoon, my fitness side of things, for my sporting events, whether it's racing or my strongman. So with my training, I sort of plan in my own head what I'm going to do tomorrow. But yesterday I had food shopping to do. As you said, we still got to keep food in the cupboards and things like that. So it's about, how do you plan your day out? I need something, the way I get over things myself personally, I wouldn't say I need it, but I enjoy something to focus on, something to aim for, and when all this is done with, things will get back to normal, and I will be able to go back to work. I will be able to go out there and compete in racing again, and see all my friends in racing and the racing team. And from my own personal side of it, because obviously the strongman, it's just me, it's not a team event like the racing is. I'll be prepared and ready for that to go. This weekend would have been the British Strongman Championship down in Somerset. I was lucky enough first weekend in March, before all this kicked off, the isolation, everything kicked off. I was competing in Columbus in Ohio, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic. So it was done behind closed doors, but I was ready to prepare myself for it, and that's how I'm still trying to go ahead and keep myself focused and prepared for what will come ahead when this is all done with.
You actually kind of dropped quite a few gems there, I would say, of how you've kind of kept going. I picked up things like routine, making sure that you keep going as well, knowing that things will go back to normal. So actually life doesn't really stop in that sense. And again, as from your background alone, you're being adaptable. You're sticking to your plan and you're adapting to the circumstances. I'm sure you used to probably go gym on the outside, and now you kind of just go gym on it from within the comfort of your home. So yeah, I can see that routine, being adaptable, and understanding that things will go back to normal, even if we don't know when. It will go back to normal, and you kind of have to be ready to get back into that life. You don't want to be a case where you're maybe just completely at a standstill, and then you attempt to go back to life, and then it's all too much. It kind of hits you. So I picked up a few things from there. Routine for me personally has actually been a very, very strong thing. Making sure that I know what I'm going to do in the morning, at least put some clothes on, have a shower, get some food in your belly, and actually just do. Sometimes we think, oh, we don't have to get changed anymore, anything like that. But actually, when you don't do the things you would usually do, like getting changed, having a shower, eating at a certain time, maybe doing some meditation, whatever you usually do in the morning, it kind of makes you think that your day hasn't started, and all of a sudden your day kind of disappears and you didn't realize. If you put on some clothes, it's very hard for you to just be completely slouched and being like clothes where you'd usually be outside. So there's a bit of routine and a bit of like normality in indoors kind of keeps you going and just reminds you actually things are still going to happen. And I like the part that obviously you said that the championship would have happened basically this week, and it's a hard hit to take that you can't be a part of that right now, but it will happen. So you kind of still have to be prepared, especially for someone like you.
Last weekend would have been the first British Championship, our racing championship, which would have been at Alton Park in Cheshire. So I would have been ready for that. Even now we're in lockdown, I feel personally, mentally and physically, I would have been ready for it. So it's given me the benefits of staying focused and being ready for the strongman and the racing when it all happens again.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let me get on to some of the comments actually. So Heidi actually says she feels guilty for saying this, but I'm relishing the time at home. You know what? I completely understand what you mean. Yes, there are people who are struggling, but the one thing to remember is that actually while we lived our life, even before lockdown, there were a lot of people that were still struggling and are in different places in their lives. It's okay for you to enjoy your life, even though things are going on. But if you can be kind and you can help somebody out and you can give a helping hand, then do so. Give someone a call. Just be kind whenever possible. And this is why sometimes when you see people on the train, we're a bit unsure how we want to treat them, but actually we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. So if you are capable and you have it in you to be kind, just be kind to somebody, and you don't have to feel guilty necessarily about being in a good place. Happy to finally see the discussion. Yes, we're very excited for this Mind Over Matters event, and I'm really honored and pleased to have it here and everyone being on the call. Happy for the time to focus, enhancing my personal development and ready to go back to work. Personal development is actually very key. I think it's something that we don't usually get taught, and sometimes we don't understand there's actually a lot to it, to not only study, do courses and learn things about work, but also learn things about ourselves and develop ourselves, which is where routine and things like affirmations, training in the gym, etc. This is where this all comes from. FE teacher working from home, but after many years of being in the workplace, I'm making the most of the time expected and precious time with my children. Yeah, again, this is a perfect time for us to get the time back that we always ask. When we have to take holidays and we have to take time off and we have to tell work, you know what, we can't work late today. This is a time when we actually got given the time just openly, and nobody is complaining necessarily to say, look, here's the time. And now sometimes people realize, forget that this is what you've been asking for. So you just need to kind of use it and say, I'm going to just enjoy this while it lasts, and I'm going to make them maximize it. And maybe from when we leave the lockdown, maybe we will be different about the way we use our time and moving forward. Maybe we won't put work first, maybe we won't put money first, maybe we won't always go out. We'll actually spend a bit more family time as well. So it's a very reflective time. Matt, it's like I've left you for quite a while. How do you kind of keep yourself going during this time?
Well, you guys have both covered quite a lot, but what's I think is kind of interesting, and I don't know how useful this is to everybody, but my situation, I couldn't be more different from Rick's in the sense of my routine has left my life almost completely, and I'm loving that. There's a kind of randomness to it. I would have thought, like both of you fellas, that routine would have become more important, but it's actually become less important. But I'm also just so aware that everyone's situation is different. I think one of the points that you touched on just there, and was it Haley who was saying feeling guilty? And I'd say, for goodness sake, don't feel guilty. This is, you get it, whatever you can get positive out of this is a good thing. Of course it's good. You've got to try and be positive. But that the time to reflect, I think is huge. That's so huge. It's like I mean, I'm not a religious man. I certainly have some kind of spiritual feeling for myself and us as a people and the planet. But I certainly feel like, you know, Mother Nature, as somebody put it very, very succinctly, Mother Nature's put us on the naughty step and told us to just sit there and think about reflect on what it is we've done, whilst she does some healing. She seems to be doing, you know, it's incredible the way, you know, the air is clear and clean, and that's just, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. You hear the birds instead of the airplanes, those sorts of things. You go, well, okay, look, if we come out of this and we've maybe slowed down a little bit, and we've maybe become more aware of ourselves and our place in the world, and with that, how we fit and how everyone else fits, then that's got to be a fantastic thing, hugely important. In terms of just personally how it is for me, one of the great things that's happened is our street there's a WhatsApp group, and we live in a cul-de-sac, but you know, there's however many hundreds of people live in the street. Everyone's on that group and everyone's looking out for each other. That didn't happen before. I mean, there's friendliness in the street, but that kind of collective awareness and consciousness is an amazing thing, and that's something to lean back on. And again, you know, I'm acutely aware that not everybody has that, and that is in itself is a real privilege. But it's again a reflection of people kind of recognizing that there's more to themselves than the bubble. There's more to themselves than, you know, and it's just easier to do when you're not in what I would call the cliche, the rat race, you know, where you're just every day head down, working all the time, just getting on with it. And at the pace that life is lived these days, certainly for me and my, you know, London life and the business I do, the pace is phenomenal. It's so fast, and it feels at times kind of inhumane, the speed at which we're expected to work. And with that, everything else that's coming at us, bombarded with messages and information and things we have to do and things we have to cope with. So as a chance to just slow down, I think there's enormously positive things are coming out of it and could come out for the future as well.
You know, I really do get that part, actually. The key part is slowing down and kind of lifting your head up from all the work that you're doing and just looking at the world and we're like, oh, there's actually human beings around us, there's actually nature around us, there's actually real life around us in a sense. And we haven't been able to do that because I guess when we start to work, I guess what's the point of working? Maybe it's just to pay bills. Some people do have a case where they want to get promoted. They do find a case they want to afford a holiday. But what we seem to do is that after we get the promotion, it's like on to the next one. What's next? What's the next? I guess for you, maybe it's like, what's the next TV show? What's the next project? What's the next goal?
Always. That's right.
And it's not often like, you know what? I can take a relax now. I completed this project. I can take a relax because again, the world is especially in London, it's all about go. So yeah, this is a really key time for us to be able to slow down and take in what is going on around us. And I think even in my area, I'm thankful that I live in an area which is in London, but it's kind of near a lot of greenery, and it's nice to just go outside in the morning and you just hear birds tweeting. Now the thing is, birds were always tweeting. They were always tweeting. But you never just have the time to slow down and just listen to them tweeting or the wind blowing or whichever one it was. And the lockdown happened and I didn't drive for probably about 5 or 6 weeks. And I took a drive and I had the window down. I was I look forward to driving. And it was just pollution. And I was just like, actually, I don't miss driving anymore. I don't mind just going for a walk again. And the air is nice and fresh. So yeah, you touched on a very key pieces. And again, one thing that we want to establish actually to everybody who's listening is some people are telling people to go to a routine. Some people are telling people to just relax and do nothing. Whichever one works for you is what you need to do. And some days it'll be different than others. But the thing is, the beauty of this time of slowing down is that we get to choose now. We don't get pushed into having to go work. We don't have to go and do this. Well, for some of us at least. And when you do have this time to reflect and slow down, actually just take it upon yourself to say, what do I want to do today? You know what, maybe I don't want to do a bit of a routine today. Maybe I just want to relax because I deserve it. Maybe I just want to chill out and have, I don't know, a games night with my family, because we don't get to do this. We always have to like delay it. So whatever works for you, I want you to embrace it and use the time as best as possible to, I guess you can call it, refill your cup. Is the case. We're always pouring into something, either pouring into our job and pouring into a new project and pouring into our colleagues. But actually, this is the time to pour into yourself and find what really works for you and keeps you going and empowers you as well. And then I think it's something that once you do that, you won't let it go. You will always keep it, and you will learn something new. So thank you both, Matt and Rick, for kind of going through that. It's like someone has pressed. Oh, it's like someone. Yes, or as Rhiannon. I'm so sorry if I said your name wrong, but it's like someone has pressed the pause button. We can decompress and embrace nature. Yeah, yes, exactly that. Press pause, and these are the things that we've wished for. So when work's been so busy and we have so many hours, like, can we just press pause? And then life is like, no. Well, now we have got the pause button and we can enjoy it and embrace it. So yes, that's a very key point. I want to start with a few questions that are very specific to you, Matt, actually. And one of the first questions, which kind of relates to your work, and even maybe outside of work as well, because it doesn't matter necessarily about work. What inspires you? What inspires you, actually, and especially as a director? But what inspires you? What kind of got you into this this form?
People, basically. Quite simply. Beyond that is extension of that is relationships, how people interact, how people relate to each other. If I hadn't done this in another world, I might have gone into psychology, as I'm absolutely fascinated by how we communicate, and so an extension of that is storytelling. And at the heart of any good story is a relationship. It's all about relationships. Almost entirely. That might even be a relationship with yourself, which of course is a whole nother thing, and probably the most important relationship you'll ever have, and the hardest one to come to terms with, I would argue. But yeah, that's the inspiration for me is you and Rick, and this right now. What's happening is potentially the beginning of a great story. And a story that could be told, and so my job as a director is how to tell that story. Generally speaking, I don't write my own material. I am now, funnily enough, as a consequence of having time. But it's usually other people's stories, and they inspire me. Fantastic stories. So how am I going to tell that? How do I breathe life into that? How do I, bring the actors on board and help them to inhabit the roles and best express the emotions of the story. Honestly, I mean, I couldn't think of anything else that's more exciting than that, for me. So I'm incredibly lucky that I found the thing that I'm passionate about and I'm able to pursue it.
That's beautiful. Rick, I can think that me and you are going to be expected in the next TV show by Matt Lipsey, actually. So that's really inspiring, and I guess people are so dynamic as well. So the inspiration kind of never runs out. There's always something new. There's always
exactly.
Which is really nice, and kind of keeps you going. You never run out of story to tell, because all you have to do is experience life and experience people, and then you've got something new right there, which is amazing. And also I would like to touch on how has, I guess, the creative outlet affected your mental health? How does it keep you going? And you said it was one of your passions, so that must be a really fulfilling thing for you.
Yeah, I guess if you were to remove the kind of what you might call the checks and balances of the process, it's a really, really interesting question, because you could remove from my process quite a lot of the stress that's involved. But equally, if you remove certain checks and balances, then arguably the story that you're telling is maybe not as good as it could be, as perfect, as insightful, as whatever, because those checks and balances are effectively the other people that are involved, whether that be executive producers that are involved, producers, the obviously the writer, other people who have input into the process. Depending on your relationship with them, that can bring a degree of stress. So that's one area where it can be it can be difficult. But the main area is just the time. The problem with what we do is there's less and less money to make shows. So therefore, the demand is that it's done quicker. And with that, technology has become so advanced that it's able to be done quicker. You are in certain areas of production, you have less time to think, basically just to sit back and kind of cogitate over what you've got and how it might best be put together. So for me, the single biggest stress, and it's becoming more so as the older I get, because just physically, it's interesting because Rick's profession is very physical, and it'd be interesting to hear about how that is for him in terms of the encroaching years and the toll that takes. But it's really becoming faster and faster, and the speed that you have to create now, that's anathema to the creative process. To me, speed does not necessarily mean increased volume, perhaps, but does not mean better. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's and I guess goes back to what we're talking about this time that we've been given, to step back. I feel like I've stepped off something of a treadmill as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a treadmill that I really like, the process that I really like, but the pace is furious, absolutely furious.
Yeah, I could imagine creating something, especially Little Britain and many others that you've created. We as quick as we're ready to watch them is as quick as they need to be produced. I guess even quicker than anything. So I could imagine there is a lot of pace to it, and yes, during the process it can be a lot of balancing and like, oh, this is actually kind of tiring. And I guess you get a bit of the how can I say, the results at the end from people's feedback later on. But then again, as with any TV series, you got the next one to come. Like, what's the next season? What's next? So I get why slowing down and no routine is actually such a beautiful thing for you right now, because you need that time to kind of give back to yourself and kind of reignite the flame in yourself as well, for your passion as well. So that's actually a very key thing that you touched on there. Actually, let me just give a comment to anybody in the audience. Actually, if you are in a creative field or you're just creative in general, let us know what you do. If you read, write, paint, do anything like that, let us know, and it'll be interesting to know who we have on the chat. And to extend your question, actually, I'll extend it straight on to Rick, which was in regards to how has age played a toll on I guess the industry you're in and what you do. If you caught that, Rick.
With relation to my personal age, do you mean? Has it taken?
Yeah.
Craig?
Yeah. So in relation to your field, such as being the second strongest man in championship, how has age played a part?
I didn't actually know disabled strongman existed until I did that course I was on about earlier on called Instructability, to train disabled people as a personal trainer. So I looked into it from there. But I've always been into my training and fitness, whether it's martial arts. I used to play football when I was younger, but I got up to taking my third dan in karate. So whatever I've done, I've tried to do 100% and put my best to it. The same in my work, whether it was in the operating theatres or what I do now. I mean, particularly now, after my crash, because my injuries, there's a saying, isn't there? I said, if I woke up in the morning and I didn't hurt, I think I was dead. But, it's aches and pains. But once you get up and get going, and it's all, it's okay. I have pain relief. I have to have pain relief 3 times a day, well, every 8 hours. But it helps me and keeps on top of things. And, I'm inspired to carry on as long as I can. My main inspiration in my career before I went to work in the hospital was, how can I help people? Well, if I can help people when they're having their operation, that's fine, whether it be orthopedic surgery, general surgery, ear, nose and throat, obstetrics, whatever, the whole wide spectrum of it all. But then after my crash, you know, I was laying in the hospital bed for weeks and weeks and weeks, and yeah, my mental health was very much there. But I've got to say, I've never ever felt sorry for myself, because nobody put a gun to my head. And just in case the listeners don't know how I became disabled, it happened in 2008 at Hockenheim race circuit in Germany. I was racing, motor racing, and at the time I was British and European Formula One champion. And this is cycle road racing to do, so whether it's short circuits, the Isle of Man TT, things like that. But, you know, my own mental state was, but I got on to thinking, well, what can I do next? You know, I've always fancied going on a cruise, so I was quite determined when I'm fit enough, healthy enough. I've still not done it yet, but I wanted to go on a cruise. But since I've been healthy enough, you know, we've had some nice holidays abroad, been to Portugal, Gran Canaria. I'm fortunate enough with my strongman stuff, that's taken me over the world. The World Championships last year were in Germany. Canada. They're in Germany this year. It's supposed to be in August, but that remains to be seen. I've qualified for that already. 2 years ago, it was in Norway, the World Championships. And, you know, and with my racing, you know, that was taking me all over the world. I've been fortunate enough to be on the roster in the World Championships, second 3 times, and third once. I've never actually won a World Championship, but, you know, I've been European champion twice, Formula One, I've been Formula 2 champion twice, numerous times, and even the racing that I'm doing now, it's a national championship, pre-injection championship, and I won the championship in 2016 and last year. So, you know, I won the racing championship, and I finished second in the World Disabled Strongman Championship in Canada. So, you know, when I was laying all that time in bed, weeks and weeks and weeks, trying to be creative and to help my mental health, I was thinking of the different ways in my life I want to help myself and better it for how I am now. I did mention it to you before, Craig, you know, people will see me, look at me, and I'm sorry, you know, this isn't just about me or whatever, but, you know, it's obvious I've only got one leg, but my right lower leg is totally fused. My right leg, lower leg was snapped off, so all the nerves have been shattered and whatever, but it's totally fused, my subtalar joint's fused in my ankle, and I've had a spinal decompression because I went into a wall feet first at 146 miles an hour, and it snapped both my legs off and my spine compressed. So for me, still to be here now, and I've moved on now, changed my career, and I'm still helping people, both able-bodied people, and very important to me, I'm helping disabled people. And feedback you get from that, I'll tell you what, sometimes it can bring you to tears. It's so rewarding. It really is. To see their faces, like, for example, when I'm doing my disabled classes, it's so lovely to see their faces, the smile on their faces, and they're enjoying it. And long term, I'm helping them. So, you know, it keeps me going, it keeps me ticking over, it keeps me buzzing. You know, whether I'm working out the next class all this time that I've got now, you know, to reflect on things. So, you know, I'm writing out my next classes, you know, changing my PTs, you know, because I've got different clients and they all have different targets, different goals to aim for, things like that. You know, whether it's all over fitness, whether somebody wants to build muscle, whether somebody wants to lose weight, whether somebody's getting married in a year. So it's always keeping my mind active, and which is what I love, is, you know, is staying active and staying focused with it all. I hope that answers the questions.
Oh, no, that definitely answers all of the questions. Thank you. I would definitely say that is extremely inspiring. And again, the word that I said, I described you as very adaptable to all your scenarios, which is actually a beautiful thing in the first place. And you've kept this mental fortitude about you. Yes, there's times where you'll be knocked back. Some serious injuries were taking part as well. But you've always kind of had this a different way of thinking, or different perspective to things. Like, you know what, I'm in pain. I wasn't in pain before, but you know what, I'm alive. If I feel the pain, then I'm alive, and that's what really matters. That means I can keep going. And then also you've changed it completely to not just about yourself. Actually, it's not just about, oh, how do I feel and what can I do? It's like, well, actually, what can I do to do something beyond myself? What can I do to help other people who are also in a similar situation and maybe don't have the same kind of mental capacity or perspective as you do? And you've basically been able to serve them, which has gone way above and beyond. It's even after we're not around, what you've done for people will have a ripple effect through many other people. They will keep going, they will encourage other people, and then that keeps on going. So it's really inspiring that you've been able to find a goal. It's not just about yourself and making sure you keep yourself and going and get yourself back up, but you've actually taken it way beyond and started to serve people as well, and that gives you such fulfillment as well. So it's really an inspiring journey. And it's the other part to it actually is it's nice to see that both you, Rick and Matt, basically you serve people. People are your inspirations, and people are the people who you serve as well, which is actually a really key takeaway at this point, to realize that when we can do things that go beyond ourselves, we start to really find some true fulfillment and passion in life in general. I think how we're kind of brought up, or how we are taught in, especially in London and the Western side of the world, is everything that we do is kind of like, how do we gain? What is my gain? What if I do this? What do I get for it? How much am I going to get for it? What is the salary? What is the position I'll get? But actually, when you can start to shift your mindset and start to think, well, what is it that I can do for other people when I put myself in this position? If I pick myself up, who am I going to be able to serve later on? It becomes a lot more powerful than that. And the reason why I want to focus around that is because I've had a quote that I've been saying to people, is that I think people think too little of themselves. People only think that all they are is like a grain of sand in this big life and universe that we're in. But in reality, that grain of sand can have a ripple effect. You have a ripple effect on other people. The people that you keep around you and you connect with, if you share kind words, that kind word will go a long way. And the thing is, in our life, we often want to change the world. We always want to say, you know what, by the end of my life, I want to believe that I did something that mattered. I changed the world, and I made a big stamp on the world. But actually, if you was able to just change one person's world, that would mean everything to them. So our perspective of changing the world is always like, I want to do something massive in the world. But actually, if you was able to just be kind to one person, if you was able to just listen to somebody, or if you was able to save someone's life or change their life, that has changed their world. And that matters a lot. And whoever they talk to and they connect with, that will have a ripple effect onto other people, and it will keep going even beyond your time when we're 80, 90, 100, or whatever it is. When beyond our time, that ripple effect of what you've done will continuously go on to other people. So it's beautiful to see that both of you are making that kind of stamp, and you're not forcing it either. You're not necessarily saying, oh, I'm doing this because I need to reach this level. Actually, you're just saying, you know what, I'm doing this because I can. I'm actually doing this because I can.
And coming back to what you said about, making a big difference just on one person. I have done, and I've still got some lined up to do. I do inspirational talks. They've mainly been at schools. It's not financial reward. I don't charge or anything like that. But I've been asked to do one at Hull City Football Club. But whether that happened now because of the isolation, not before next season starts. But that's to try and inspire the players. I've been approached by the manager. But when I do these inspirational talks, schools or whatever, if I can help one person, like you just said, Craig, to make a difference, my job's done. I'm happy. But if I can make the difference to one person, each talk I do, look at all the amount of people over that time, hopefully it will have a knock-on effect and help people.
Yeah, that I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Matt, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, helping in any way you can. It is interesting how the kind of positivity that what you do can bring can come in so many different forms as well. Like you said, Craig, you're absolutely right. As an individual who is not necessarily even creating anything, there are positive and arguably creative ways in which you can make a difference to other people's lives. And that can create what I think you're talking about, which is the positive feedback loop, and how that can then ripple out, and massively important. But I'm always grateful when people will remind me, because I need to be reminded from time to time that what I do is important, because when put in conjunction with, let's say, what the guys are doing, what Rick does now, but certainly what he was doing as well as a surgeon, what people in the NHS are doing, it's hard to see what I do is even comparable in that sense. And it isn't in the kind of grand scheme of things, but there is a way in which what I do does help people, particularly with the comedy, I think. And you know, right now, heaven knows we could use a comedy in our lives, you know, just a release, a chance to kind of let go and laugh. And for me to recognize that is important to people, and that people appreciate that and want it is really, really important to me, because otherwise, you know, why the heck am I doing it? What is the point? Because it's not for me. You're right. I mean, it is. I get an awful lot out of it, but it's a pointless exercise if it's not reaching people and doing some good.
I highly agree, and I'm very, very sure that it has brought so much humor into people's household. Literally, you Matt, have actually been in people's households and changing the dynamic of people, or the way that they talk to each other, or they how they spend their time, and you brought so much humor. So yeah, it is a very, very big deal. And I guess sometimes we only focus on our bodies and the physical sense, like which is very important, of course, because without our bodies we couldn't even carry on. But so there are people on different fronts, like NHS and surgeons, are making a big difference. PTs are making a big difference. But there's also other parts where we need some stuff for our mental health. How do we recover from a long day? How do we wind down from a day? And this is where stuff like comedy and humor, other films and other things, these are the ways that we can wind down and really have a bit of time. And plus, you're also portraying a lot of stories through the things that you do, because that would mean that people can have something to relate to, and then they can find a bit of light around certain situations as well. Especially you use people's stories to even, that's what inspires you. So you're actually portraying real people for real people to resonate with it and gain from it. So yeah, I completely agree. So thank you so much, both Matt and Rick, for that. Let me catch up with a few of the comments. I did ask the question of who in the audience does anything creative, and we have a student art director, and they love glass painting as a hobby. That is very unique. Go look into that. I'm an up-and-coming filmmaker who's also directing the documentary for the Mind Over Matter multi. Oh yes, we would love to see more Mind Over Matter content, definitely, because this discussion alone is very powerful. So thank you so much. World Skills UK bronze medalist for video production and student compositor / editor. I found since the lockdown, it's been a lot harder to get on board with creative projects. I found it a lot harder to make any contacts in quarantine. Any advice? That's an interesting one. And then we also have a biz journalist who's great and a great insightful discussion. Let's actually touch on a few. Let's touch on that one question. Actually, you know what? I'll return to it because I'm going to do Q&A at the end. So I'll return to that question as some advice as to how we can reach out for contacts. Let me ask you both a question. And this is going to be a way that we can leave something for the audiences to kind of manage this time right now. I'll kind of start, which is, how can we find some peace while we're in isolation? How I've personally found a bit of peace with isolation is, firstly, trying to not focus so much on all the media that's going on and a lot of the kind of fear that's being portrayed. If you can, you just remember that your time, the way you spend your time is in your control. The way you watch TV, social media, this is all in your control. I would advise that you try to control the stuff that you absorb and kind of limit it as much as possible. Only go on the news to find out what you need to know, but don't continuously watch it over and over and listen and read all the messages, because that's not what we should spend all our time doing. The way to find a bit of peace with what's going on, I start with gratitude. So I'd actually ask myself, well, Craig, what am I grateful for? And that can range from me being alive, me being healthy, me having some food. I'm looking forward to a great meal in the evening, me having my family, me having somebody to give me a call. There's a multitude of things. Or you know what? The birds tweeting and the air is really fresh. We had sun. That was something to be grateful for. It's raining now, but it will come back soon. So I always start the day with some gratitude, and the way you start your day is the way that the rest of your day can lead on to. So if you start it positively, you can actually lead that same energy all the way through your day. So I'll keep it simple as that. What about you, Matt? Oh, actually, Rick.
Different ways to find peace of mind myself is, as you just touched on just now, Craig, and I said before, to plan your day. You know, whether you do it the evening call or the next morning, but each individual person, I think, needs to find their own level of satisfaction. And if you set your stall out from day to day and you can achieve those, know your set targets, whatever, you can sit down at the end of the day, you can feel satisfied. And I think the satisfaction level, you know, is obviously going to be different for different people, different individuals, depending on their ability, their fitness, their age, or whatever disability. You know, while we're on disabled as well. But yeah, I think the satisfaction for different individuals is going to be different. But if you set your stall out each day, whether in the evening or in the morning, and it doesn't matter if you don't get them all done, but you know, if you get 50% of them done, 75% of them done, at least you can sit down at the end of the day, you know, and feel satisfied with yourself.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you very much. And Matt, what is a piece of advice you could possibly give?
You know, that's the hardest question you've asked. How do you find peace? I mean, peace is, you know, it's like the Holy Grail. You know, peace, happiness. You know, these things that they don't come easily necessarily. And right now, where we're at, it's next to impossible. I think your bit of advice before is really good, Craig. Just to bear in mind, there's a temptation to follow everything that's on the news. You know, it's what these are worrying times, and people are looking to perhaps to the news for answers, of which of course there are some, but you can get swamped by that, and you can get brought down by that, and I think that can bring a lot of stress. So I think, yeah, avoiding that is important. But there's a real dichotomy going on here as well, because for those people who are already feeling mentally isolated, they're now being asked to go into physical isolation. That can be a very stressful and indeed a dangerous thing. And it you know, that's where I almost don't feel qualified to answer the question. I can say, and it's, obviously this is really what you're asking, is from my personal point of view, there are ways, you know, and I don't meditate, although I kind of wish I did, but I guess a sort of version of mindfulness, which is just to stop and really focus on anything that I find positive, anything that I can think of that's positive. And really focus on that for as long as I can manage, whether it's 5-10 minutes, something like that, that just causes me to stop and maybe focus on breathing and such like. But these are kind of techniques, if you like. But if you haven't, if you're already in a state where peace is hard to find, these are not easy times to help. You know, it's easy for us to say, well, you know, I've got this job that's full of stresses and busy, and this is a great time for me to step back from that. If you didn't have that in your life in the first place, then you've got even less now. It is a really tough place. And all I can say is that things like we're doing now, I hope, at least, is a chance for people to hear other people talk about their situation. And it occurs to me that maybe some positives that can come out of this is people who are coming online now, maybe get together online with each other so that the chat groups can start, forums can start, so that people can just keep talking. Because if you're isolated and feeling isolated, peace is a very, very precious commodity and very hard to come by.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. There's a lot of people on a different side of the spectrum where some people are already isolated and this is just not really helping them. They already feel like they were alone, and now we're even more physically alone where there's literally nobody around. And that can actually have a negative effect. And this is a time for us to realize there's so many different techniques, so many different options to choose from as to how we can find peace or find some kind of stability. But you, as you said, be mindful. What could you possibly work for you? If you feel alone, maybe it's a good time for you to reach out to somebody, for you to either call a family member or friend, or if you feel like it's not that doesn't work for you, there are some helplines to kind of have someone to talk to when you're really feeling down, which is very key. And at the same time, on the opposite side, if you feel that you really needed the time and space for yourself to think and to breathe from everything, you can take a bit of social distance in the actual social electronic sense and spend more time with yourself. So yeah, everything is adaptable to different people and in different situations. And I want people to understand that this may work for us, certain things that we've mentioned, but you need to find what works for you. And the best way to do that is to listen to yourself. Just pause, listen to yourself, and see what exactly you may need at this time. So I wanted to say a massive thank you to both Matt and Rick for all of your answers to all the questions and sharing a piece of yourself as well. It's really key to be transparent and vulnerable, and you have done amazing at that. I want to get to a few questions. Let me get to a few questions that have already occurred while we have, I think, 4 minutes left. So let's try to get to those now. So in regards to, I found since the lockdown, it's been a lot harder to get on board with creative projects. I found it a lot harder to make contacts in quarantine. Is there any advice? He was actually a production and student compositor / editor. Matt, do you want to maybe answer this one? If you have any advice?
Well, yeah, it's difficult. There's no doubt about it. And I don't know. Beyond, reaching out as best as you can, trying to. The companies are still kind of operating, but in a kind of an offline way. So you can make contact with facilities, houses via email. But I don't know how many of them are answering kind of cold call type emails of, I'm so and so, I've done a course, a recent leaver and a graduate, looking for work. It's tough. I wish I had a silver bullet for that. But the question that you're asking is this, the perennial question, which will be as difficult to answer, I think, when we come out of this as it is to answer now. I totally appreciate it's probably even harder now because of making direct contact with people. But yeah, I'm not going to be an awful lot of help with that one, I'm afraid.
That's no problem at all. The advice I would give in regards to continuing creative projects and making contacts, go through any kind of social ways that you can go through. So such as LinkedIn, updating your profile, keeping your CV up to date. As you said, maybe you can still kind of cold call or cold email a few people that you might be interested in working with and collaboration with. And even if you're planning stuff for projects that you're going to do when lockdown is over, or if you want to do some projects that may be indoors, something a bit different, some creative projects you do indoors. The life of, who was the one I asked? The life of Kira is something that it could be interesting to do as well. So yeah, try to think way outside the box, even things that wouldn't have been thought of before. Just try to do that if you can, and also get onto forums, etc., and websites where it has a lot of people talking and are in a similar field to you. And also, this is a question for both of us. We actually really run out of time. What are you all looking forward to most when the isolation is over and there is more normality? Rick, go. I would let you answer that one first.
Having the freedom to go and see parents, close friends, get back to work, get back to a normal routine. We're trying to do. I'm trying to stay as normal routine as I can now. But it was my mum's birthday, St George's Day. And yeah, I went to see her. But you got the 2 meters apart, and you can't. It was hard not being able to hug my mum on her 86th birthday. But yeah, things like that. and not having to queue to go in supermarkets for food and things like that. It's all necessity at the moment, but yeah, I'll be really glad when it's all back to normality and we can go about our normal daily lives.
I resonate with that as well, trust me. And Matt, we actually have only a few seconds. I might leave it with just Rick, just so we can wrap it up. I just wanted to say, everybody, a massive thank you to all of you who got involved and has been watching. I hope that we've been able to help you out, and thank you for paying such close attention. I just wanted to say, just stay strong, be kind and stay safe with each other, and literally just share as much as you can with each other. Thank you.